thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dear Prime Minister de Croo, dear Alexander, this House feels honoured to welcome you to Strasbourg as the Belgian presidency is now in full force. Let me start by congratulating you and Belgium on the ambitious presidency agenda that your government intends to implement over the next 6 months. I particularly welcome your emphasis on boosting the EU's long-term competitiveness and industrial policy, as well as your priorities on enlargement, reducing vulnerability to climate change and improving European security and defence. As we've just had a full debate in the hemicycle, and you've been told by members, but also as you told us, your time in office will be critical. It is the final presidency of the present legislature, and you have the extra task of accompanying the European Union to the elections. This implies that key dossiers must be completed on time. I am referring particularly here to the reform of our migration and asylum system, brought up by many of the members also in the hemicycle. We must make sure to deliver on this before the end of the term. Before the debate, in our bilateral meeting, we also discussed the Special European Council on the 1st of February. We agree on the urgency of unblocking European financial support to Ukraine. A quick agreement between all 27 member states for the new Ukraine facility is essential. And as you are well aware of the position of the European Parliament, this needs to come hand in hand with the revision agreement on the revision of the EU long-term budget, which is the MFF. Last word from my side before concluding. EU 2024 is the year of democracy. We will have decisive European elections in June, and our main priority is to help increase electoral turnout. The next legislature will need to deal with the consequences of significant economic, social, environmental and geopolitical changes. The composition of this next European Parliament will make a difference. It is our collective responsibility to encourage people to vote, because every vote matters. Dear Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning to all of you. Thank you, Roberta, for the very warm welcome here. I have to say, extremely happy and honoured to be here in European Parliament, the heart of the European democracy, and as you said, in the run-up to European election and in some countries wider elections, I think there is no better moment to be here. As you mentioned, our presidency is a bit of a specific one because our time frame is a bit reduced, of course, on the legislative part. There is still quite a lot of work on the table. We have made a priority list of approximately 60 legislative files that we would like to come to conclude. A few important ones related to prosperity and to security, not only on asylum and migration, but also on economic governance and artificial intelligence and on the Net Zero Industry Act. I mean, these are a few that I mentioned, and this was my first message that I gave to the European Parliament, is we count on you as well to try to work as swiftly as possible, and we will play our role in trying to be the broker of compromise. But the European ambition is one that we realise together, and the European Parliament really is a partner in that. More in general, the goals of the Belgian presidency, in general, it is to build a stronger Europe, and to build a stronger Europe for our next generations, a Europe that is able to protect our population in times of war, protect in the broad sense, a Europe that is able to maintain and improve its competitiveness in a world where the economy is more geopolitical than ever and where we continue to be a continent that not only innovates, but that also produces and that also finances and that also creates jobs here on the European continent. And a Europe that is ready for the future, especially the homework that we have to do, able to go into a European Union one day that might be bigger than, for example, 30 member states. As I said, while we are getting bigger, we need to get better as well, and this is part of the homework that we need to do. And as I mentioned in my introduction in the hemicycle, our plan is to make a roadmap of what are the different points that need to be decided, that need to be laid out. I think it's clear in the world of today, it is good not to be alone. And I think all of us know what the value is of 27 countries that stand together and that defend each other. And throughout the European continent, all polls show that our European population expects more from the European Union, expects more protection, expects us to be stronger in a very turbulent world. And this really is our assignment. This is what we need to do in the next months, and this, for me, is what the European ballot is about. How do we make Europe stronger? How do we make a Europe that better responds to these ever-increasing expectations from our European citizens? Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Andy Bounds, please.
Yeah, Andy Bounds from the Financial Times. Mr. de Croo, you make that plea for a better Europe, but there's one member which doesn't seem to share those views. This Parliament is very upset, as you know, about the distribution of funds. I understand that was a Commission decision, but it seems far more interested in why that money was given than the Council. And I just wondered whether you feel any more steps should be taken in dealing with Mr. Orban, and maybe President Metsola would like to comment as well.
Okay, one by one. Sometimes we group the questions. Well, first of all, I don't necessarily agree with the first phrase you said. If you look at opinion polls in Hungary, the Hungarian population also wants a better Europe, and also wants a Europe that protects them and that provides them opportunities. But yes, indeed, your question is about money, and sometimes politics is about money. Now, if we look at what has happened over the past months, we've seen that important steps have been made by Hungary related to violation of rule of law and certain fundamental values. And indeed, that has led to approximately 10 billion that can be released. But there is much more that is still blocked. There is a double of that is still blocked. And their next steps still need to be taken. And we will continue to act on this basis. Further hearings have been planned with Hungary in the General Affairs Council. But steps have been made. Based on those steps that have been made, the Commission has decided to liberate a certain amount, but much more than what has been liberated is still blocked, and rightfully so blocked.
I'll come in with reaffirming also probably what you heard from a lot of the group leaders when you asked them the same question earlier today, is that the position of this Parliament is extremely clear. It has not changed. Our concerns are well known, and we will continue to push to see a resolution of the situation. Our first aim, of course, does not mean that we want citizens in countries to lose out on the benefits of EU membership. This is very clear, including on funds. But of course, above all that, we will protect their rights and their expectations as European citizens. That's what we will continue to do. And we will use the tools available to us to see that happening. At the moment, there are two separate issues. One is a letter that has collected signatures, which talks about the Article 7 procedure. I will meet with the members concerned later today and see how best to take it forward. And there is also a resolution that will be voted on Thursday, for which amendments are still open, and that is about the Parliament's position on fund dispersion. So this is what this Parliament is rightly so discussing this week in hope, let's say, that we can emerge with a successful Special European Council as one thing that the Ukrainians desperately need, and rightly so.
Next question. Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. Jakob Skåning from Zetland in Denmark. Mr. De Croo, you said before in the hemicycle that the European Green Deal is a top priority, but that the European populations must be backing it up. What does that mean concretely? How do you intend to make a greater understanding of how these things are important in the European populations, as like the recent developments that we've seen in Germany and several other countries might give you the idea that backing is not exactly intact?
That's a great question. And that leads to why we, next to the Green Deal, need something else. And the Green Deal sets the objectives, and it's a good package of legislation. The whole question is now, how do you realize it? And in how to realize it, there we see that other parts of the world have gone much further. I mean, we have an approach in Europe today which is very much based on what you would call the stick, so it's regulation. The United States and other parts of the world are much more on what you would call the carrot, which is incentives on how you can realize it. And I understand that people ask questions and say, okay, but how is our industry, how is my employer, how is my job going to be maintained, knowing that these objectives need to be met? That answer is not there for the moment. And we see throughout Europe that our industrial activity, and especially heavy industry, chemistry, and so on, and these are very important activities in countries like Belgium, but in many European countries, they're under pressure. And that is because a part of that answer is missing. So that is the reason why, for us, the flip side of the Green Deal is some industrial deal that deepens our internal market. Today, the answer to the Inflation Reduction Act has been the opposite of strengthening the internal market, because we have allowed more state aid, which I understand was a fast, short-term answer. But now we have to move to another answer, not making the internal market less effective, but making it more effective. And then, of course, you have a social dimension, which I also mentioned in my speech. Being part of the green transition needs to be something that is accessible to everyone and not just the happy few. A big part of that is national policy, but a part of that is also European policy. I think today our population knows that we have to do it. Our SMEs know that they have to do it. Our industrials know that they have to do it. They're convinced by it. Everyone understands it will demand a lot of efforts. The only thing they demand is, okay, who's going to help me in doing that transition? And on the how, I think we have not provided enough tools for the moment.
Can I just add something to what the Prime Minister has just said? Because this will be, let's say, the main focus of the campaign. In each country we go, this is a question we are asked. In other words, how are we going to bridge from that hard worked for and with difficulty reached majorities in this House, which we coalesce around in order to become the most climate ambitious continent on this planet, and the legislation that needed to go through in order to achieve that in the decades to come, with the social and economic impact of such legislation. And if we don't bridge that, then we would be finding ourselves in this Parliament legislating on something that is either not understood, not well explained, and impossible to implement. So I look forward actually to looking at not only that implementation phase, to see how the targets that member states, industry, small businesses, individuals who have to make big decisions in terms of their personal consumption and expenditure will meet the requirements that we have put for them. And it's our obligation, because if we don't, the space that is filled by the frustration of not knowing the answer to this question will be filled by those who are on the fringe of the political spectrum. And that is a real concern that we have. It's my responsibility to make sure that that gap is not left empty, in order for us to say, we have done this, we realise it is necessary, we have worked hard for us to show that ambition, now we need to match it with explanation, with those cushions for the impact that will be felt by individuals and businesses alike. And I think if we do that, even against the background of the agricultural sector and the protests that we are seeing, but also on the flip side of that, with the declaration by the Polish government yesterday that Poland will no longer be an obstacle to the achievement of these agreements. So we are seeing political leadership from the centre of the political spectrum, which is what we will need to work on over the next months.
And there's time for one last question. I think you were first. Yeah.
My name is Momchu Injov, journalist from Bulgaria, working for Klubzik Media. My question is to Prime Minister De Croo. Prime Minister, during your speech at the hemicycle, you didn't mention a single word about the enlargement of the Schengen area and about the full accession of Bulgaria and Romania. What does it mean? Does it mean that it will not be among the priorities of the Belgian presidency or something else?
No, well, people have a tendency to analyze speeches on what is not in it, and it's not because a certain topic is not mentioned. I mean, Madam President did not give me 2 hours to speak to the European Parliament. Maybe one day that will happen. No, no. I think that important steps forward have been made over the past weeks. I know this is partial related to Schengen, but it's important that those steps have been made. And I know that both countries have done tremendous effort. Steps forward to comply to all the questions that have been asked by so many countries on Schengen, and really we want to applaud all the efforts that have been done. I think that partial steps that have been made is a good sign and a first step. But I would expect, if things continue to go as planned, that next steps would be made.
We very much look forward to those steps being made too in this Parliament. We welcome the decision that was taken in the last day of the Spanish presidency, and March cannot come quickly enough for Bulgaria and Romania. Thank you.